I was hiding my way because I didn't want you to run off.
Yeah, and that's how cool
How's
it
this?
is.
Things going from our perspective.
Ready for the weekend or what?
We're on schedule. We have to put the tent up today, so it's there, and everything's plugged in, and Lynn's been out pretty much every day, just delivering. Yes, yeah, she'd like to have all the work done tomorrow, so that Friday. Susan, Zach, they got here, well, they left the they went into London because it was,
Everybody? We'll just call this to order, and Mike, our acting CAO, will take us through all this, and he'll give you all the information and stuff, and then we have a little bit of a program to see it, and we'll go from there. Okay? We need to introduce everybody?
Okay, so Randy can yell and I'll do on the microphone. As he mentioned, my name is Mike Thorley. I am the CAO, the temporary CAO here. I've been here for a couple months, and I'm going to be your mediator / your MC / your whatever else it needs to be, janitor too. So thanks very much for coming out. We have a little bit of a program agenda for tonight. As you can see, there were some pieces of paper that were there. The PowerPoint presentation was provided. We only had about 20 copies, so share amongst yourselves, and if you need to have any more, you can come pick one up at the town office. It will be online after also. There's a little bit of information in there also about one of the items tonight will be the golf carts and the information on the two sort of bylaws that are in place, and we'll have discussion on that a little bit later. And then there's another sheet of paper over there, it's called with regard to Connect, and this is a communication device that we're using, that we have as a municipality, that can get you the information that comes through. So if you have some questions about that, you can ask me after, towards the end, and we can even get you set up for Connect. But basically what it is it gets the information that we provide out directly to you, either on your phone, via your landline, cell phone, email, and so forth. So it's a new program we've had for a little while now, and we just want to make sure that anyone that doesn't have it or wants to get more communication can do that. So once again, thank you very much for coming out. We'll do an introduction of the group that's sitting in front of us. That was sort of, this was the agenda, will be introduction of mayor, council, and staff, presentation, a presentation from the RCMP, presentation from the Last Mountain Stewardship Group, presentation for, with regard to the Child Care Center, presentation on the waterfront project, another presentation with the bylaw with regard to the golf cart use, and then we'll have an open mic. Sing if you'd like, but we'd like to do a Q&A going forward. So that's sort of where we're at right now. And sorry, just doing double duty here. So just some quick introductions around the room. To my immediate right, we have Councillor Mark Oldershaw. And next to him is Councillor Sandy Metz. And next to me is our Mayor, Randy Bowman. And once again, myself, Mike Thorley, CAO. Two of our special guests, we'll introduce them a little bit later. Over to my right, we have new council member Bonnie Barber. We have next to her is Councillor James Rones. Jarrett Rones. And over there at the end is Leah Schweitzer, our other councillor. One missing tonight is Sean Langford. I think he's away on vacation and wasn't able to attend. So that's part of the introduction. So next up, we will have the presentation from RCMP, and microphone now. We'll just give him the floor, and he'll give him 10 minutes to give us a spiel.
Good evening, everyone. Regina Beach. Thank you, Randy, Mike, councilors, for having me here. I met with Mike before the July 1st festivities. Talked to Mike, and I knew this was coming up, so I asked if I could just pop in, give you a little bit of information, and if you have any questions.
He's standing at the door. So I went out there and there's two bitches. I'm like, oh yay, I was so excited. Haven't seen them on there since. They were yes. Must be too high then. Yeah.
So anyways, with Lumsden Detachment, we have 8 members at our detachment, and we're fully staffed. We're one of the few in the province, actually, that is fully staffed right now. Some of you may have heard in the media or whatnot. We're fighting to recruit and to keep our members. So there are shortages in a lot of the detachments, and like I said, though, for us right now, we're fully staffed. We do have one of our members, Amy Matthews. She lives over at Buena Vista, so she's in town here, and she's involved in Regina Beach. I think she's on the new Child Care Center board, and her and her husband and her kids, they really enjoy it here. And all my members love coming out here, of course. Who doesn't like to come out to the beach? Really good. And on that front, in terms of what's been happening in the community here, so last calendar year, there was a total of 252 calls or incidents in Regina Beach. So, and that's about the norm. From January of this year up until last night, we're at 100 calls. And last year, at the same time period, we were at about 155. So a little bit down from the previous year. some of the things we've been doing, you probably see us on the highway. Every summer we've been running large-scale check stops on 54 highway. We ran our last one on July 1st there. 12 impaired drivers in about 5 hours. So unfortunately, the numbers don't seem to be going down, and that's why we keep going out there. Education. The big thing over the last few years is the THC or the marijuana testing. We now have the capability to test for THC levels, and this last check stop we did, 9 out of those 12 suspensions were related to being over the legal limit for THC. So we'll continue with a couple more check stops here, 2 or 3 over the summer, and weekend Regina Beach gets most of our attention, largely because you guys see a large number of visitors coming into town. So we go to where the action is, I guess. Lots of people, and just by being visible, interacting with the public, try to, I guess, address any issue that's right in front of us, and just so people know that we're around. Yeah, so other than that, we are looking at starting a capture program, and I know Dale Spelchin, one of our members, will be discussing that with Mike. And what that involves is, and it's voluntary for the people of Regina Beach, but we try to identify people who have video surveillance. A lot of people have doorbell cams, video surveillance outside their property. And why we want to compile a list is when there's an incident in the community, we can contact people on that list if they're in the area, and hopefully identify a suspect or a vehicle or something like that. There were some individuals living in town here about 18 months ago, and they were responsible for a lot of the property crime that was going on. And they were actually captured over in Canada Valley. And the reason they were captured was because of a camera that caught them, actually 2 cameras on properties that caught them. And we were able to locate and arrest those 2 individuals. They were charged with numerous offenses. Still in jail right now. And a lot of times we will get reports of breaking in and other crimes, but we just, we usually do not have witnesses. I mean, these are happening at nighttime or when people are away from their property. So that's where the video surveillance comes in handy for us and for our investigations. So what will happen is through Mike, you'll probably see something on the town website, and if that's something you're willing to participate in, all it is just providing your name, an address, obviously, and a contact number, and that will be stored by Mike. And if we do have something that happens on Nickel Avenue, then we contact Mike and look for those names of people who have video surveillance on their property. So pretty simple. Other than that, we did have a rural property crime initiative over the last year. There was a large increase in rural property crime. They actually had a catalytic converter or 2 stolen from the town office here. Again, there's another case where we had video surveillance and we're able to identify the 2 people responsible, and they were captured as well. So lots of things going on with the go-karts around town now. So for us, we respect the bylaw, but we also want to make sure we're in the business of public safety. If we see something that's not safe, we're going to pull people over and address it. We're not being heavy-handed or anything like that, but seeing, young children driving down Center Street, and I mean like 11, 12-year-olds, they're probably going to get pulled over and get their parents to come. Because you still have to respect the Traffic Safety Act. You can't have people, just because you can drive a golf cart, doesn't mean you can go through the stop signs, have underage drivers. So with those, for the most part, it's just pulling people over, friendly reminders, educating them on the laws. But sometimes, and I was speaking with Doug here, there's just people who take it a little too far, or You know, we're seeing a lot of motorcycles in town, ATVs, and those will not a bylaw. So we have the All Terrain Vehicle Act. uh,
Just flies over. Around me, not around.
Yeah. So yeah, we try to get, and keep people safe. As we all know, there's so many people out here on the weekends, so last thing we want to see is someone get hit.
Great dude, and your driveway, that's quite often is,
But anyways, I'm not gonna stand in front of you and talk all night, but I am interested if anyone has any questions or comments that I can answer. What's going on in town, around in town, or anywhere else? One at a time. Yes.
Just want to thank you for the presence that you have, particularly around Canada Day. We had asked that we had a little more presence out here and noticeably weekend. And just want to thank you for doing that. Those things help a lot.
I'd like to say thank you. It's a lot quieter between 5th Street and 54 on the open spot where there were dirt bikes continually. And, so I've only seen one in the last couple of weeks. So.
A few people have called in, and we do, and that's the thing. A lot of times people figure out police aren't going to do anything, but we have such a big area there. Simply, that's the reality of rural policing. So we go where the calls are. If you're calling us about dirt bikes, we're going to come in town here. If Deer Valley's calling us, we're going to end up over there. But if you don't call us, Deer Valley calls us, then we're going to end up in Deer Valley. So I encourage people to call in 310 RCMP. That's the number that gets you right to our dispatcher. And they will dispatch the call or a request for us to come out no matter where we are. So.
And I think the information that we received from the RCMP earlier, a month and a half ago, was just that there is a considerable amount of motorbikes or dirt bikes running around town. We posted it on the website and through our newsletter. It seemed to get the word out there, and it's all education that we can just be able to give back to the community to be a part of it, and that comes directly from the RCMP. So part of the reason why it has anything else for RCMP? Everyone seems to be happy enough with anything that's going
I love
on.
it. But like I said, call in anytime you have a question, concern, anything going on. We'll send a member out. Love coming out to the beach. So, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Dave. Thanks for your time. Sure you can hear? Oh, sorry, we didn't meet. So, next up, we'll have a presentation from Last Mountain Lake Stewardship Group. Sherry Forsyth is going to give us a quick update on the goings on in that area and the positive steps that.
The lake is free of outside pollution contributors, so if you want to use the mic or come up front, whatever you'd like, so.
I don't know if my voice is strong enough. I'll give it a try.
Yeah.
I don't have a very strong voice. Thanks very much to council. Maybe I shouldn't use it. I know.
Thank you to Regina Beach Council for giving me some time to speak. I really appreciate it. My name is Sherry Forsyth. I live at Canada Valley. My husband and I are volunteers with the Last Mountain Lake Stewardship Group. Just a bit of background. We're a small group of volunteers at present, 3 of which are the original members since 2002. We've managed to keep the group for 10 years. Our group has been faced with a number of challenges in the water quality of Last Mountain Lake. The most serious challenge of all was the Quill Lake Drainage Project. We've been dealing with the drainage project for 8 years. And so for those not familiar, just a quick history. The Cootawagon Diversion Project was introduced in August of 2015 by Water Security Agency to divert the flow of water away from Big Quill Lake to Last Mountain Lake. Water Security held a 2-day informational meeting in Beaulieu, open to the public, where they presented their plan. Stakeholders and local residents raised so much opposition to the plan that the project was dismissed a month later. The Quill Lake Watershed Authority, however, introduced a new plan in 2016, Common Ground Drainage Diversion Project. This plan was much like the first one, but involved digging a ditch and diverting high saline water from the Quill Lake Basin through Cootawagon and Pell Lakes into Last Mountain Lake. When we learned of this plan, we knew it would be disastrous for Last Mountain Lake. We researched material, we organized meetings, circulated petitions, wrote letters in an effort to stop the project until an environmental impact assessment could be completed. In September of 2017, the Minister of Environment approved the drainage project and exempted it from an EIA. It was clear we needed a stronger voice, so LMLSG joined with Calling Lakes Eco Museum in Lower Capel in October of 2017 under the name of Saskatchewan Alliance for Water Sustainability, SAWS. We continued our meetings, phone calls, research, and letters in an attempt to convince the Minister of Environment there were ways to reduce the lake levels at the Quills rather than drainage. Because of the threat of pollutants to water quality and fish habitat in the Capel Lakes and rivers, Pasco First Nations filed an application for judicial review with the province, and the Minister of Environment supported with affidavits from both LML on the grounds that this water drainage should not be approved without an EIA. The province settled out of court. Terms of the state settlement stipulated that the public must be notified of any future drainage project, and Last Mountain Lake Stewardship Group, Calling Lakes Eco Museum, and the organization must be given the right to a full written hearing before the ministry can future EIA exemption decisions. But in spite of that, drainage from the Quill Lakes watershed continues to be a threat, so we're keeping our ears close to the ground at all times for any new developments. Water Security believe that Last Mountain Lake is a reservoir that can hold a lot more water due to its size. And unfortunately, there's no consideration as to the amount of nutrients, nitrogen and phosphorus, for example, that will end up in our lake as a result. So we work closely with biologists and experts in the field of water quality and sustainability. As a result of our research, we found many red flags that would have had serious consequences to our lake water had that been allowed. Last Mountain Lake is considered a subsaline freshwater lake with a density of 1,800 milligrams of TDS per liter. To allow additional pollutants from the Quill Lakes wetlands, especially nitrogen and phosphorus and saline, would greatly degrade the water. We would see increased algae growth with limited recreation activities, poor fish growth for sport fishing, and a spiraling effect on business and property values. So I don't know if there's any fishermen in the room, but this policy would have an impact on the future of fishing in this province. When wetlands are drained, that water has to go somewhere. As new drainage ditches are being dug and water is directed off farmland, it heads downstream into other water bodies. Communication with residents about we have limited resources, so we've had to rely on social media, websites, presentations like this, and from time to time we hold meetings to keep them updated. You may recall an extreme rain event in June of 2021 that resulted in overland flooding and sewer backups in some areas of Regina. This resulted in a discharge downstream of 5.24 million liters of untreated stormwater and wastewater, over 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools that ended up in Last Mountain Lake. We immediately contacted the City of Regina for an explanation and asked why downstream users were not notified. The city agreed to improve their communication with downstream users and have set up an advisory committee with representatives from business, industry, U of R, First Nations, and nonprofit groups to develop dialogue and work with them. One of our LMLSG volunteers sits on that committee. The City of Regina has assured us they're taking proactive measures to address such planned and unplanned discharges, and that funding will be increased to reduce the risk of future wastewater discharge into our lakes and rivers. We greatly applaud those actions. After all, that's why LMLSG was formed back in 2002, was in this very room, where there was only standing room only, because of concerns of perceived effluent entering Last Mountain Lake. We've since been notified by the city of an incident where a measurement of pyropyrene levels were detected in their wastewater discharge from their treatment plant. That matter has been investigated and settled with the party responsible. So moving on, there are several more developments that have drawn our concern. While there's been no official announcement, the Saskatchewan government withdrew funding to watershed groups that provided education to their residents about source water protection, potential threats to their watersheds. Withdrew funding, to the 10 watershed stewardship groups in the province. Most offices are closing. These watershed groups provided education to their residents about source water protection, potential threats to their watersheds, and help with projects that could improve water quality in their watershed. So to lose that resource is worrisome. Instead, this area has been divided into 4 large districts: Northwest, Northeast, Southwest, and Southeast. Bigger is not always better. Smaller watersheds allowed for better communication and collaboration on a grassroots level. So we're curious as to how the water resources in these new districts will be managed by the new upcoming policy, which I'll talk about now. Last year, Water Security introduced a new drainage policy called the Agriculture Water Stewardship Policy. Meetings were structured to engage stakeholders that may be directly impacted by a mitigation policy whose advocacy related directly to wetland management, not wetland conservation or restoration. Engagement meetings began last July and will be wrapped up later this month. The terms of the new policy will be announced in the fall. So we're very concerned that under this new policy, wetland drainage will continue to be a priority, and there'll be little emphasis on preserving wetlands. Wetlands reduce algae blooms by filtering out nutrients that would otherwise end up in our lakes and rivers. They prevent floods and droughts, provide habitat for wildlife, recharge groundwater, which is important for sustaining well water for rural household use, as well as maintaining moisture in the subsoil, which aids plant and crop growth. And because they store carbon, wetlands play a large part in climate change. We can't afford to strip this province of wetlands. All we need to do is look at our neighboring provinces like Alberta's 10-year action plan, Water for Life, or Manitoba's Sustainable Watershed Act that ensures no net loss of wetland benefits, to understand why we need to get serious about protecting Saskatchewan's water resources. Manitoba's vision is a comprehensive provincial water management strategy to conserve wetlands, enhance resiliency, improve surface water quality, manage nutrients, protect biodiversity, and sustain economic development. Alberta's vision is to conserve, restore, protect, and manage Alberta's wetlands to sustain the benefits they provide to the environment, society, and economy. Water Security's vision is responsible agricultural water management supporting a resilient and thriving Saskatchewan. There's no mention of the value of conserving wetlands. We held a press conference on June the 5th at the McKell-Wascana Conservation Park in Regina to raise concerns over the lack of regulation of wetland drainage. You may have seen some of those media reports. We expressed the need for a wetland policy that supports no loss of wetland benefits, and under that policy, tailor programs for industries that would protect our water and natural resources. Perhaps introduce incentives to improve farming practices that would bring success to that industry and others while bringing growth to our economy. Rather than the alternative we're often faced with, crop failures due to drought or flooding, and the huge cost of road and infrastructure repairs. Now, don't get me wrong, we are not against agriculture on the farm. I know what it's like to try and make a living on the farm, but we also knew how important it was to maintain water and trees on that land. Saskatchewan is the only province that does not have a wetland policy. We've already lost about 50% of our wetlands. Over the years, SAWS has been advocating for a wetland policy that will protect valuable natural resources. We need a balance in this province, and that isn't happening. Right now, we're seeing a state of agricultural disaster in the Dundee and Arlington RMs as crops are failing due to drought. Ranchers have limited water supply for their livestock. Wetlands are so important to groundwater recharge and subsoil moisture and sustaining wells for real rural household use. We can't afford to use up all of our wetlands. So to get our message across, we've launched a letter writing campaign urging the Saskatchewan government to establish a wetland conservation policy that gives priority and maintenance of wetlands as part of a long-term solution to maintain the benefits they provide, like reducing algae in our blooms in our lakes, fighting floods and droughts, storing carbon, which helps fight climate change, and providing a home for wildlife and waterfowl. We need to protect fragile and important resources. So far, we've collected over 1,000 bid signatures. We're gearing for 2,000 by the end of July. We'll deliver these letters to Premier Scott Moe with copies to Erica Ritchie, the NDP critic, who will present them in the legislature. Now, this is a big deal, folks. From what we've seen of this new policy, it's still a drainage policy. This is our last chance to learn about policy before it's approved, to have the opportunity to provide input into a policy that will affect each one of us in our daily lives. Once this policy is approved, it'll be almost impossible to make any changes. And we want to make sure that we don't have additional drainage into Last Mountain Lake. We have enough. We're one of the precious lakes in southern Saskatchewan. So we need to be very sure that nothing more comes into the lake. So I brought a supply of letters with me, and if it's all right, if I could leave them on the table. And anyone that's interested in knowing about this policy and having some kind of an input into this policy, please fill one out. Take some to your friends, have them fill them out. And if you would mind leaving them on at the office, I'll come by at the end of the month to pick them up. So that's my spiel. I'm quite several of these up and down the lake, and I appreciate the fact that I can come and talk to you folks. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, I think the office probably has my email address. Just send me an email. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sherry. Now, going forward, I will just have a quick little presentation with regard to our child care center facility that we're looking at. So you can see on the screen and behind me and on your sheets that you have. Definitely not going to read it. Definitely not going to read this word by word, but just to give you an idea, there's a little bit of history, of course, with this. If anyone doesn't know that's sitting in the room, and also one of our main project workers was our recreation coordinator, Stephanie as well as sitting in the audience. So Stephanie, please give everyone away. She's been very instrumental in this entire project altogether. So basically the history, there was, council has taken upon themselves to provide or look at the concept of providing childcare facilities within the municipality. Surveys were done, completed, and looking at some either a facility or a program within the municipality. This happened back in 2022, and so the options were put together for also looking at a before and after program. There was a need and a want in the community. So just with all the options researched, administration contacted the local schools to get involvement also. And what basically came out of it was looking at a building facility in the municipality, looking at land that we had available and so forth. So there was a few motions that were made by council over time that were made in 2023 with regard to a modular RTM facility equipped for childcare building as per the codes that's necessary. And the council took it upon themselves to do that with the information that was provided. And then the second motion looking at a long-term loan that municipality would be looking at. And the motion was made to look at this in research with our local banking institutes to be able to do that. So these are the ones that are on the board. We've watched any of our other meetings. These were passed in 2023. Going a little bit forward, I think the next slide is just basically where we're at right now. Child Care Committee has been established. There's 2 members of council that sit on that board. Leah and Bonnie are sitting on that board, plus a very good contingent of representatives from the municipality, and Stephanie chairing that. So they are putting together regulations, looking at procedures, guidelines, and so forth. That's all necessary. This is all part of the regulations that have to be set out by the Saskatchewan government. If I'm missing something, Stephanie, just wave at me. The land, like I mentioned before, the land we're going to be using, council has a parcel of land that's over by the school, museum, community garden, cultural center, off of Donneville Crescent, which we'll be staking out here in the very, very near future. And so we are excited about that and the area that it's going to be in because of where all the other facilities are situated. And the plan is to be as self-sufficient operated as possible, to be a fully licensed childcare facility. And this is what the community is looking for. We're looking at spots for about 23 children, from infants to kindergarten age. And the next one is the diagram, a little bit hard maybe to read, but a diagram of the modular unit that has been purchased and will be put in place, we hope. I couldn't give you an exact date because we're not sure, but by the fall that will be something in place. Yes, I think that's just quick, unless council has something else to mention about it on that they're doing.
We have said many times during council that Stephanie Caswell, who has been instrumental from the very beginning of this, a huge amount of work to get this, the whole idea, get it going, the surveys and all of that. Huge amount of work. And we've never been able to thank her officially because our meetings, things haven't done. But this is, I think, from all of us. Give a big round of applause to Stephanie, because this would not have happened on work and the work that she's doing now. So, Stephanie.
With that, she'll have to provide treats tomorrow at work, so that'd be great. Anyone can help her out with that, that'd be perfect. If you do have any questions, in the Q&A later on, you can ask about this. I think we'll sort of continue on. If I don't see a lot of hands or people jumping up to be able to do that, we'll just keep moving on so we can keep with our agenda. And now I'm going to pass it over, and they've asked on the online to use the microphone. So Doug, you're good with that? So we're gonna have a presentation by Doug McKenzie, GC, this name's a new guy in town, and talk about the waterfront accessibility revitalization project.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mayor, Council, very much for this opportunity. Again, I'll bring up Stephanie's name again because she's been very instrumental in getting this project together also. And I think for all council does, and it's hard as a council member to get things accomplished, and it's always like you go forward backwards and forwards and backwards in the community. I think, the projects like the one I'm going to talk about and the childcare facility are specific projects that are supported by council that are going to create future improvement to the community in a big chunk way, right? And, they're assets, continual assets for the community. So hopefully, I'll get through the presentation and hopefully you feel this is going to be a great asset to the community also. This was a kind of a brainstorm idea I bounced around when I was on council, and then after council, I thought, the main pier gets so much attention. It's such a great spot. It's a big focal point of the beach, and the photos, the pole, everything. It's really utilized. Lots of pictures down there. It's great. And then when you look around the area around it, it's not great. And the old boat launches down there, it's all deteriorated. And then, Sass Parks has their property. And then on the other side is the parking lot. And the Whibbit's been a great asset to the community. Also, there's lots of enjoyment going on down there. We just felt that, there's an opportunity for improvement through that whole waterfront area down there and try to make it more appealing. And so we formed a committee. Basically, the committee I ended up as chair. I don't know why, but anyway, and as you can see on the next page, the names that are kind of come up here, I won't go through everybody, but everybody's been really instrumental in kind of putting this together. We did try to get a committee together that would be helpful in all areas. It's a bit of a team effort. And, we put the ideas together. We felt, how do we get this moving forward? There's obviously two big players here, Sass Parks and the town of Regina Beach. So, we went to Sass Parks initially and had a conversation with them. They were open to the idea if the town was open to the idea. And then we'd look at kind of the financial situation kind of moving forward. So, at that point, we engaged Scatliff Miller Murray as their design engineers, landscape engineers, and we said, put a concept together for us that we can all kind of stare at and bounce some ideas around. And so if you want to move that forward a little bit, you see the partnerships. Yeah, so, I guess the goal really, what are the needs of the area? One is obviously visually appealing. There were some safety aspects, regarding the parking lot and pedestrians and just crosswalks and those sort of safety issues. And then the other kind of big thing was accessibility. We need to create accessibility from any parking area on the sidewalks to the pier, to the beach, so that anybody can utilize any part of that area. And, those were the main kind of top points. And we got to make sure the water runs downhill and gets to the lake. That was definitely part of the engineering part of it. But, so yeah, that's how that put together. So Scatliff came up with some designs. We did look at them. And really, honestly, their first concept, we were pretty excited about it. That's it's hard to see, I know, guys, from there, but if you look at the bottom left-hand picture, so basically just in an ideal way, elevation is set there. We're going to create a boardwalk from the pier over across to the beach it'll be a raised boardwalk with drainage underneath it. Will be riprap under kind of to the west side between the pier and the boardwalk, and then we can kind of move through the pictures. I'm not sure
actually, we may go back, let's go back to the first picture there, and maybe it's just easier, right on the cover. So yeah, so that's a new rendering they just did up for us. So you can see the pier and then the riprap on the left side. There'll be some pavement work to create drainage to kind of force the water into that area. And then there's stairs on this side going up, and on the other side of that, it's actually like tiered seating stairs. So they're stairs, but you can sit on them. So they're usable sitting kind of tiered steps, and then accessibility ramp that's going to continue on a tie into the sidewalks of the parks on this side. And then, there's lots of, we have the lake swim, we have the fireworks down there, concerts on the pier, just general. And the other idea just generally was connecting the pathways. The pathways are so utilized walking past that they all end on Main Street, and then you're in the parking lot, and then you kind of got to leapfrog the parking lot to get into the Canucoma side. And, so this would be phase one, is everything east of the pier, and then working with Canucoma Group to continue the pathways along the west side of the pier shoreline and improve all that and tie it back into the continual pathways. So it's a kind of a continual pathway through the whole beachfront, one end to the other. And, benches and maybe some history signs, and, there's lots of, new visitors to the beach. They have no idea that there was ever a train running through here. Just some history along with that, and, all these little important things we can do after, but I guess the first point is getting the structure built and kind of moving forward with that. So we were very fortunate that when we did the concept drawings up, and we were ticking all the boxes that everybody wanted to get to, SAS Parks committed to the project, the town of Regina Beach and council committed to the project, and so we could move forward on this. And I did do a public presentation. We didn't get many people out, I think we had like 5 people. And I was hoping we'd get more out for it, but this is a great opportunity to talk about it here. So, I keep kind of mentioning, we don't know about it, but, so at this point, we do have, they're completed, the engineering is completed and done. So there'll be new sidewalks going from this corner on both sides of the street down to the change house with some flow restrictions built in and crosswalks built in, raised kind of crosswalks across the street. This will be water flow going through there. They've all come toward that into the drawings. The other point that we want to make sure is that accessibility to get ice shacks onto the lake on the west side of the pier is the main road across there. They've engineered a stronger concrete base there just so there's no deterioration, and that the traffic flow, as it always has typically been, down Main Street to the west side of the pier, ice shacks all the way. We know that's a big thing, super important, and we definitely get that, and that's kind of drawn in for sure. So that'll be more of a flatter surface, but it'll be part and parcel of the whole thing. So that definitely was top of mind when we were putting this together. So as far as the fundraising, we got construction drawings done. Right now at this point, we can kind of continue on there. So the budget for this is around, if we continue down with everything, we're about 560. We'll see what the tender drawings come in. At this point, we have a commitment of financing for this pretty well to be completed between parks and the town at this point. That doesn't include the road yet and pavement. So we will be doing some fundraising and some work around that. We're going to get the rendering drawn up. I want to get a rendering done and get it up down at the bottom at the pier down there so people can actually see that there's something happening. There is tender, they're going up for tender, Parks has gone up for tender for the boardwalk part already. So this fall, on the east side of the pier, this fall there'll be piles starting to go in, and there'll be some construction going on down there. And then the sidewalks will follow as far as council timing, I'm not sure on that, but hopefully that's the fall too.
So, you know, we know timing around seasonal things, it's busy this time of year, nobody wanted to interrupt the season. And when things slow down in the fall, start to get at it. So it's kind of worked out that way and just on time, but, what else we got there? Yeah, so that's an engineer drawing. Basically, you can see, you know, you can understand that. So the purple part is the actual boardwalk with accessibility ramps back to the sidewalk and actually down to the beach. And then improving the beach on the lake side of the boardwalk, you know, so the sand is better and it's just a better beach area. It's starting to get utilized. Like you see everybody kind of migrating down around the point and they're coming to the pier and sitting there. You know, everybody's spreading out a little more, and that, you know, COVID created a bit of that, but it's just, you know, more people coming and that sort of thing too. So, you know, it'll definitely get, you know, there'll be a ton utilization of that space down there, and I think it'll be great. And then there's some drainage things there, and the sidewalks you can see is just a bit of engineering design around the sidewalks. We looked at all, make sure we got handicap access to all the sidewalks at all points, crosswalks, all that sort of stuff, and everybody's kind of stared at it and you know, make sure all the checks were done, and Mike looked at it when he got here, and he's looking at a new project for Mike, but if he added a little bit of value. And then, you know, we talked about gating down Main Street, you know, getting rid of the, you know, the big blocks and actually putting in, you know, gates that swing, like just nice, appealing style pivot gates, that they can be open in the winter and then they close, and somebody, you know, if the Whippet guys need access, they can kind of get through there and get access. That sort of stuff. So it'll clean all that. Definitely the east side of the pier over, just clean that up and make it all accessible and usable. And then we'll work on the west side. After that, we'll kind of keep working that direction. So, you know, I guess we're excited about it. It needed some attention for sure, and I hope it's, you know, a really positive thing for Regina Beach at the end of the day, and it's functional, and everybody still can continue on and do what they need to do. You know, we're trying to make sure we're aware of all the things that need to be done down there, but for Whippet guys and ice shacks and lake access and all those sort of things, we did put a lot of thought into that, but I think that's basically all I got on it. I'll kind of put out for questions and all that sort of stuff. I'm happy to answer any questions.
One question that came online was, considering the fact that the docks and roads are not currently maintained, who will be responsible maintaining the boardwalk?
Yeah, so the boardwalk, when we thought about maintenance, is obviously that's a big issue. So the boardwalk itself will be mainly a non-maintenance boardwalk, similar to, so the planks will be composite planks. They won't need any work. The railings will be very similar railings as the parks uses for all their facilities. So the railings will be a metal style railing. So we're trying to make it really maintenance free, because I know that's a big issue. We don't want to be spending any future money on maintenance, and who's going to do that? And we've had some discussion around kind of maintenance, and there is, you know, may come down to a little more, where's parks cut off and where's the town start kind of discussions a bit, but I think everybody's wanting to get it done and just kind of get it going on. I think everything is definitely going to be as maintenance free as possible. So that's for sure. We don't want to have anybody down there spend a bunch of time on it. It's just a place to use, right? So, yeah. But we definitely, that was a big part of the discussion for sure. Yeah. Cool. Anyway, thank you guys for your attention to it. We'll get some interest down there. Share it. I hope it's a super positive thing. And I want to thank everybody for investing in this project. And we'll continue on. I got a few more brainstorms. We'll work our way through some other items as we move forward. But anyway, cheers.
With the sidewalk portion, we're doing ours this fall, from Tricklands all straight down to and the little part.
So yeah, I see a lot of work down there this fall, then it sounds like, so that's great.
I don't know if you could hear back here, but from Trippins to, I don't know where Cameron Hart's house is at the corner. That will be the sidewalks that we're gonna be doing this year. Each year we try to add to
Both sides.
Yeah.
Both sides.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not getting it wrong. Yeah, both sides.
Yeah.
As per drawing.
Yeah, as per the drawing, yes.
Oh, we have one in the back there, fire away.
When you say asphalt resurfacing, does that include the parking lot?
So, yeah, you maybe want to talk, I can talk a little bit, or you want to talk about it.
Well, you go ahead because.
Yeah, well, it's.
So I'll just maybe a little bit, just through the conversations, the parking lot definitely is on the radar as far as, tying this all together and improving the lake side of the parking lot along with the whole parking lot, but, paths and cleaning that all up. I mean, it's not really maintained, and I know the town's working on a new lease with Canucamo, and I think that's just in a discussion thing at the moment, and it's very difficult to get everybody together to kind of nail that stuff down. So that's why we're kind of giving that a bit of time, not for this committee to focus on, but I know it's definitely on my agenda, is to make sure that once we kind of get this going, that we then can go to Canucamo and say, look what we're doing over here. We want to continue this way, and whoever's doing it, whether it's a town lease or their investment, we want to continue improving that whole area. So it's definitely on the top list. It's phase 2 though. Sure. Yeah.
Thank you. I was late to the discussion, so I haven't heard everything, but has any thought been given to accessibility for non-motorized watercraft? People wanting to put kayaks or small sailboats or canoes in for day use. It's really difficult now.
Yeah, I mean, I as far as access to the lake, the boat launch is really lake access, right? I mean, that's really the focal point to get any items in the lake, unless you have access to the beach at some other point. But I guess it depends what you want. I mean, a sailboat, you'd have to definitely go to the boat launch if it's a trailer thing, but.
There's actually someone that takes their
Okay.
sailboat in from the parking lot, just because it is quite difficult to use it.
Yes, well, all I know is that old boat launch is not really made for any, and we'll continue that way. I mean, you can carry a kayak down there and drop it in the water, but I mean, the boat launch is really kind of where the focal point of putting watercraft in the lake.
Yes, before the blockade, before the blockage, people could drive down there, unload their craft, and then drive into the parking lot. And just wanted to get that.
Yeah, I mean, you could, again, the part of the problem with that lower area is the driving down part.
Oh, totally. No, I
Right,
understand.
and then people park down there, and then it just becomes a big congested dome show. And we're trying to, we're opening that up a little bit because those blockades are pretty friendly to walk through.
Yeah.
They're not, not big blocks, right? They're pretty open. I guess you'd have to go down maybe then on the beach side of the boardwalk, down on the sandy part, and you can still access it. Again, I don't know what watercraft. If it's a kayak, it's a couple of people. I guess you gotta maneuver through it, but we're trying to. I mean, we can't kind of fix all of it, but we're trying to make it more appealing and pleasing, and it'll be a nice place to pull up and look at the boardwalk. If you could sit on it, watch people kayak.
I just want to say a little bit more on that line. The big difficulty is that pedestrians and cars are not a great mix. And so if we can define an area that's safe for pedestrians, I think that we've accomplished something really important. In working with that, we hope that we've allowed enough openings, such as for the ice shacks to go up and over, that would also allow for some of that sort of non-traffic related access or put-in points for the various things that would happen. So if you're looking at the drawings and having discussions and you can see some things that could be improved, please let us know, because we're only going to get one shot at this in probably our lifetime, and so we really want to get it right. If there's something missing, please let us know. We tried to think of everything, but we may have missed something.
Yeah, you could go in on the Whibbit side of the pier.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and when you're hiking it up over your shoulders and carrying it, you can go along the accessibility ramp and get in that way as well. But the separating the vehicles and the pedestrians became a very high priority, so.
Won't be there.
All right,
Great. Anybody else have anything? So, once again, thanks very much, Doug, for the presentation. I think it's going to be a great project that is going to be definitely first phase and second phase and probably a third phase after it's said and done. So, great to see. Thank you very much in that to yourself and the committee. Now we will get on to the bylaws with regard to golf carts. So I think I'll just kickstart it here, just a little bit of history once again. The council was looking into earlier in the year, putting out a plebiscite that wanted to discuss everything from golf cart use and also ATV use within the municipality. And
Just golf cart.
wasn't it of the plebiscite, sorry. Yeah. And from there, some of the results that came back and some of the information that happened with regard to the government of Saskatchewan and SGI was there was going to be some potential changes if communities were looking at utilization of golf carts within municipalities, setting up bylaws and so forth. So some guidelines were put in place, some options were planned. Administration was given the task to present those. You did receive copies of 2 of the options that were put in place. Those options being one of the golf carts used just to be sending you directly to the golf course and back, not to be driven all the way around the community and so forth. So that was one that was originally put in place, or as looked at to be put in place. And the second option that's come forward that council has looked at is the golf carts being used throughout the entire community, municipality, driving on the highways as per the regulations for the stipulations that have been set with the government and SGI.
Mike, there's a third option?
We're getting there. So from there, those 2 options were documentation of the 2 options with you, and I think the next slides just show, I couldn't put them all together, but the 2 options, the top part of the bylaw anyways, to be a part of that. Now, as Councillor Mark had mentioned, there is a third option, and the third option would be to keep it as status quo within the community itself, and not have the 2 bylaws or any bylaws put in place with regard to that. So with that information, we'd be looking at going forward and having, now as per council, that we're looking at the options sent out to all residents of the municipality and putting it together as a ballot, and having that ballot being able to be returned to the municipalities, the town office, and you'd be able to click on which of the 3 options that you would like to see as part of this, so that council can make a decision on which option to go for, or go towards, trying to put the bylaw together. That bylaw, if it is an actual bylaw that comes into place, then it has to be submitted to this, the government for approval still, to make sure that you are following all the guidelines, but there is that option, the third option, where it would be as status quo and no bylaw put in place. Everyone is on the same page with that from council side, or you want to talk about that?
Well, 1 vote per household, maybe just to clarify.
Yeah, we're gonna try to make it as clean as possible on the ballot itself, and we're hoping to have that out in the next week or so, and then have those to be returned by the end of August, so that we can review all the documentation and then present to council for that first meeting in September. So that's hopefully the plan, if administration can make that happen. So leaving it on our shoulders now. So any other councillors want to talk to it, or if there's questions going forward? No, this way?
I'll just speak. I think the big thing that stood out to me as we spoke through this as a council was that we felt it was important to take everyone's voice. It was difficult in the plebiscite, knowing that it's a one-day election, you have to be here and have to vote, to capture everyone's thoughts. So as we realized that the government was allowing us more flexibility to consider more than just to or from the golf course, we wanted to bring this to everyone. So please do take the time when you get that letter to fill it out with your thoughts and get it back to us. And it's just a small group in here. Please ask everyone you know to do the same. Those letters and that feedback's important so that we can truly represent the wish of the majority.
These bylaws also follow what SGI puts in place. So all the $200 liability insurance, not driving them out after dusk, all those things would be within the bylaw. So the SGI guidelines would be followed in option number 1 and in option number 2. Remembering that option number 3 is nothing, it is as it is. We don't have a bylaw now, it is as it is, we just go our merry way.
Who's going to enforce the bylaws?
I'm sorry?
If you vote on one of these bylaws, who's going to enforce them?
So just so you know, the enforcement of the bylaw will be by the RCMP. It is not by our local bylaw enforcement officer. They do not have the jurisdiction, our bylaw officer does not have the jurisdiction with anything that moves as a vehicle and so forth. We can do parking and those type of things. So it would be an RCMP issue, and that is throughout the province.
If I may, a golf cart is considered as a motorized vehicle. You have to be able to operate it the same as any other vehicle that's operated on a municipal road. That means you have to have a driver's license, you have to be sober. Anything, they can stop you if you spend all night at that golf course and you never going home and you get stopped in that golf cart, you will lose your license. It's a motorized vehicle.
Sherry?
My question is, okay, so the RCMP are the ones who are gonna enforce the law. So I got 6 kids hanging out of a golf cart, coming down number 1 First Street West, and they're hanging out all over the place. Well, by the time I give the RCMP a call, those kids are long gone, nothing's gonna happen. They don't stop at the stop sign on Fairchild. I personally followed a golf cart.
Pictures of them and videos of them.
Well, I personally followed a golf cart down number 54, going to the grocery store with their kids for groceries, no golf clubs. Like, these things happen, there's gonna be an accident, and like I say, it takes 20 minutes for RCMP to get here. The infraction is long gone already.
Unfortunately, that can be with a car, a truck, anything that you phone them, they're not gonna get there right away. But if you do keep phoning, they will have their presence in town and they will catch them. And the thing about driving on the 54, you cannot take them on the highway. If you get caught, they'll confiscate that golf cart and it'll be gone. You cannot be on a road that is over 40 kilometers an hour.
The council, and you probably all know I'm fairly new at it, so I've been spared some of this, get a tremendous amount of input as far as golf carts go. And we can't tell if it's more for or against. And that's why we're trying to put it to rest by getting it into as many hands as possible and majority rules. There's no one way that's all right or all wrong. So let's see what the masses would like to have, and then we'll go with your will.
This gentleman was first right here.
Okay, I have a question. You say you have 2 different
scenarios.
Yeah, options.
2 different options, that's the word I'm looking for. It's terrible when you get old. Both options only relate to and from the golf course from your home in the most direct fashion?
So
or does one relate to golf carts, if you're properly licensed, you can drive it anywhere at the beach.
So I can speak to that. Essentially, what we're asking is, option 1 is to and from the golf course by the most direct route. Option 2 would allow for operation on any municipal road, to or from anywhere within the municipality. And then, of course, option 3 would be to not have a bylaw in place, which technically means they cannot be operated in town limits.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
In the back there?
I would like to know what a class 7 driver's license is.
Learner's license. It's a
Or
learner.
whatever it's called.
Yeah, to our knowledge, it's a learner's license. You have to be a certain age to have that license, as in
With an
15.
adult in the car
15.
that has a driver.
You know, ma'am, I don't know the exact ruling. I'm always told that the class 7 is a 15-year-old that has their learner's license.
But it isn't a 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old.
It's a 15-year-old that has to have their
So if
license.
I follow them and take pictures and do those things,
Then you would be a good citizen if you
and
did
then I
that.
will send it, and then I'll be calling the mountains 24/7.
And the thing is, the biggest part about this entire thing in council is on that, is education. It's an education, as we talked about the motorbikes earlier that the RCMP did. It's education to everybody that's there, and it's the people, it's the parents, it's everybody that has to be a part of it to make sure that
There
happens.
are a lot of parents that aren't.
And we hope that this is gonna correct that.
Yeah, and Ruthie, just like the phone, the doorbell cameras help and catch people, that stuff that you guys, photos and whatever else you might have onto the RCMP, that'll help them a great
Yes, and
deal, and
these-
they're the only ones that can do
I know,
anything.
but there are kids who yell back at you, you know the language. I've even seen them on the rooftops. And I live on First Street, so they stay off of Main Street, so up First Street, west they go. And so,
And I really do believe that the whole idea and the concept of this process is that education, and council wants to find the best route to let this happen within the municipality if necessary. And if the community wants that to happen, then that's what they're looking at getting, from that. And we're not gonna be able to fix everything that goes through, just like the rules are with the stop sign. Not everybody's gonna stop at a stop sign, but you're gonna try to deter them as best as possible. The gentleman here in the blue shirt. Yeah.
I think your name is Bonnie.
Me?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Did I hear you say there's one vote per house per house?
Yes.
That totally doesn't make sense to me. There could be 5 adults.
Yeah.
All contributing to this community, and there's only they might all have different opinions on this.
Right, and that's why I mentioned it, and again, that's something we can continue to talk about at council, but that is where we were at our last discussion, was to say it would go to an address, and then we would receive one vote from that address. So, thank you for the input, because again, we can talk some more about might be better represented. The whole idea is to get the best and the most representation we can, so we can make it for the majority people.
Maybe there's a voters list somewhere for provincial or.
Great input,
Yeah.
great input, thank you.
Steph?
Well, I was just gonna say, the one vote per household stops somebody from making 50 photocopies and, and skewing the numbers, that's all.
That's right.
Yeah.
Do we know, are the RCMP enforcing option 3, like they see a golf cart, they get ticketed?
We just actually went through Canada Day, and it was my first year, which was lots of fun. And when we were leaving that day and we met at the top to drop off our headphones or microphones or whatever they were, and all of a sudden a quad came flying by us on First, I think it was, on First. And they were done their part of the parade, and they went zooming by us and they stopped them, and I found out later that there was a ticket that was given for that. So they are enforcing that, and that was an ATV at that time, right? That was an ATV.
That's a different category.
But still, it's still part of the education, and it's still part of what's necessary within the municipality itself. So is golf carts done the same way? I don't know that for sure. All I know is that they, to sort of answer that question, is they are still enforcing what they can at this time, and that is one of them. So, go ahead.
I was gonna say, Today, they're focused very much on education, unless it's an extremely unsafe situation where they feel that hard punishment may be the right answer right away. They're focused on education. Now, when a bylaw is passed, it will be much clearer to them what the community wants.
Right.
So if a bylaw isn't passed, we'll be able to say, you know, guys, we'd like you to enforce this with your best judgment, but we'd like to really crack down on this. So it'll help us. Right now, they're being a little lenient within reason.
Well, as the constable stated when he was here, he did mention that, you know, when there's underage riding, 12-year-olds on Main Street, they're being stopped, the parents are being called, they're having to come get the kids, get the golf cart because it's not allowed. So they're working on that education piece instead of finding the parents right off the hop, just trying to educate them that that's not okay. So they are doing stuff as they're seeing it out here. They're just not.
I think that needs to
iron
be
fisting.
explained on option 3.
Yes.
The fellow with the way back,
That's a good one.
he's had to but yes, a few times.
Yeah, I just, speaking about golf carts, I see a very dangerous situation in front of the golf course. Golf carts coming out of the, golf carts coming out of the golf course going into town. And that road, it's more than 40 kilometers an hour. It's posted at 60, but we all know that they're doing a lot faster than that. Those golf carts come out of that restaurant, somebody's gonna get smoke coming out of Nukama, on that Nukama road. And there's not your jurisdiction, but I'd like to see a 40K zone in First Avenue, down the road, maybe a half a kilometer, just in that area, slow it down to 40.
If I could mention something to that, we're working with Kanukama right now, because that's the only road that isn't 40K coming off of the highway. Every other turn you make off of that three-way stop is 40K once you come off of 54. Main Street's 40, going south is 40, that one's 60. So we're working with Kanukama right now to see if they would reduce the speed limit on
That'd
that
be
road.
awesome, because somebody's gonna get killed. Thank you.
I guess my only concern, we live on McMurtry between the town of Quonset and Main Street. That's like #1 highway for all sorts of vehicles. And all sorts of ages and sizes in those vehicles. And I think it's important for you as town councilors, looking at bylaws for golf carts, to recognize the fact that we are just opened the door. I spent my winter in Lake Havasu City in Arizona. They drive everything that has a motor on the streets all the time, have regulations about what licensing you need. My concern is that between electric motorcycles, electric bikes, electric carts, gas carts, like we've got 30 different kinds of vehicles that are all coming into continually more and more popular use. Including the little kid the other day that's coming down the middle of the street, and he's got a little four-wheel electric car. It's only this long, it's got an electric motor in it. And I'm thinking, my God, what kind of regulations are we gonna need to control that sort of thing? And I have my golf cart and it sits over at the golf course, and I only a block and a half away from the golf course. It'd be nice to be able to drive it back and forth. But I'd also like to be able to take it and go down to the yacht club or to the main beach or to wherever and just be able to use it for easily parked transportation. Thank you.
It's important also, like, we're really glad that we have at least 40 or 50 people here tonight, because we're going to be relying on you to start the chatter out there so that people know what we're talking about, and when they get this letter, they get informed information that you're getting tonight. So we would really encourage you in your coffee groups, in your supper groups, to talk amongst each other and inform as much of the community as we can get informed prior to this.
Stephanie?
Just one thing I want to say, like that 310 RCMP, because just sitting here in this nice group, we've heard that First and Green and McMurtry and Osborne is a problem that no one knew of. So if we had those 4 people phone the RCMP, then the RCMP would be patrolling those areas, and that would be, that's just sort of, if we start using that number, then they know where to go. They cleaned up that 5th and the field area with the motorcycles once people started phoning it. So It's really good just to make that call. I know people don't want to, but they're encouraging us to, so we should.
I think part of the problem with the golf carts on the street and the quads and everything else that are out there is when SGI came out and said that we have okayed it for the municipalities to pass a bylaw so that you would be allowed to do it, people missed that last sentence that said the municipality still has to pass the bylaw. And everybody just thought as soon as SGI said that, there's like 100-fold more golf carts on the street now than there used to be. You know, people.
And that was only for golf carts.
Yeah, no, but that's.
Quads,
Yeah, quads, they're illegal all the time. But the golf carts, people are driving, I mean, I'd love to drive my golf cart back and forth from home, but we haven't because as far as I know, there's no bylaw, so it is illegal to ride your golf cart in town. But that's why people are misconstruing it because SGI said, well, we've okayed it. Yeah, but the town hasn't yet. And I really like you, that you would.
Yeah, we also had that information, if anyone heard, when they opened up the possibility that you could have alcohol at public beaches, right, and at parks. And so that came across, you know, our administration world, and we went, whoa, just slow down, because you gotta pass a bylaw, and then we're getting phone calls, and not to talk to the turn, but getting phone calls from people that, well, we wanna head down to the beach, and can my husband bring beer with him? I'm not gonna answer that with a 10-foot pole, but we just know that it's not enforced or it's not in place. And this is the same as the golf carts, and that's why, you know, council wants to look at this and be able to get an idea where the municipality wants to go. So please, you know, we encourage everybody, once we get the information out to you, is to submit it back in so that council can make that decision properly and present the bylaw. If there is gonna be a bylaw, present it accordingly, so.
This council is not promoting any one of those three options. We're presenting them. Let the people decide. We don't all think the same, and as a matter of fact, I've gone back and forth many times in my head, and I'm not sure yet. And I will be one vote.
So can a bylaw be passed and then not broken, but unpassed? So if we went for the option 2 and we found out it's just havoc, could you guys undo it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, amendments can be made, those things can be done, there's still live enough documents, if you wanna say that, to be able to do that, and there's a variety of bylaws that still need to be worked on and have been worked on here, so it's part of a process. I know that we're gonna get into the Q&A here shortly. One that popped up on the screen here is about snowmobiles also, can a bylaw stipulate staying up? Those things are additional to something else, right? So that's something, just so the person that's asking online, that'll be something that has to be looked at a different time, so in doing that. Go ahead, Matt.
Just one question, I think Bonnie said that letters were going one per household. You're talking about all property owners, though not just permanent residents, you're talking about cottagers too?
Yes.
Yeah, it's going out to basically the utility bills, or however you want to look at it. We'll be putting out a ballot that can be submitted back to the office to be able to do that. We're trying to get it as refined as best as we can, and so that it can be, you know, everyone can get their vote towards it, and the council can make the decision from that information that's given, so. Good, I think I'm not seeing any other hands right now. I think we are to the end, getting close to the end of the night. And we called it an open mic. And so if somebody is wanting to ask a different question, a question about tonight, I will try to mediate or coordinate, I suppose, as possible. Please raise your hand and we'll try to get to those questions as best as we possibly can. Just remember that you may not get an answer tonight on the question. I'm going to be truthfully honest with you. I'm going to try to write some of this stuff down, and then if you need to come up and ask me after to get an email back or a phone number or whatever, we would try to do that also. But council is here to answer those questions, and myself also. But I want to take this time to thank Doug and the RCMP and Sherry for presenting tonight. So I think that's good, and it's nice to see all these people here here tonight too. So. Open mic, oh yeah, probably the best is to stand when we get a chance to do that, and and try to be as, maybe Mark can even pass on the microphone, I feel like we're at David Letterman's show or something like that, and doing it, and be courteous to everybody else in the room going forward.
Good evening, my name is Carol McKay, I live on Fifth Avenue, and I just wanted to bring up some of my concerns about that road. It's hard to live by. I'd like to thank, I phoned the town office and I asked for dust control. It's the first time I've had it in 10 years. I finally got dust control. Right on 5th and 5th corner, at the four-way stop. It's been hell living on that corner. It's been dug up since 2014. Well, I lost count. 40 times? I don't know why it has to be dug up 40 times. I'm just using it as a number. In the wintertime, it's dug up. In the summertime, it's dug up. In the springtime, it's dug up. And it creates horrible traffic, horrible dust. And then the guy came along with the little rollerblade with the dust maker. What do you call that thing? Dust maker. I had a film this deep on my front deck, and I can't live with my doors open. In the middle of summer, I cannot open my windows and my doors. I need to have Fifth Avenue fixed. And I'm not the only one on Fifth. You can lose tire in the potholes. The guy comes along with that little spreader thing, back and forth and back and forth. I've got videos of him doing it every day. Well, that's not performance. That's wasting our town people when they have to do other things. I paid for pavement there, I paid for the back. It's just deteriorating, it's just going to shit. I'm sorry, I'm tired.
I know that corner, that intersection is totally brutal. Unfortunately, the amount of work that we've been putting into it is because things weren't done proper and are first fixed 3 years ago. There are 5 valves in that intersection that were supposed to all be replaced when it was open, and it was decided that they didn't need to be, that they'd be fine. And we have incurred 3 different water breaks at that same intersection because the first repairs weren't done properly. So we are down to 1 more repair that has to be done. That's why we haven't told, there's 1 more valve that has to be replaced, and it's getting replaced this fall. Unfortunately, we're digging up that intersection again, but then finally that intersection will be closed and sealed properly. I'm not going to guarantee you pavement, because we also have, the reason we did the reclaim project on there last year with the PDAP money is because we have to replace that main line all the way down Fifth Avenue. We incur on an annual winter, we incur 3 to 4 breaks just on that line alone. So all the hookups going down Fifth. This year we were lucky, I think we had 2, so it's probably one of our best winters. But when, at the time that, once that water line will be replaced, then Fifth Avenue will be brought back to normal. Okay?
I hope you have somebody that knows how to dig that hole. Because one time they got in there with the backhoe, whatever they call that machine, and we had a gas leak. And it took 5 hours to get that gas shut off. It was pooling under my house. My cat, me, we just jumped in there. I phoned SAS Power and I said, or Energy, and I said, can I start my car? I mean, like the gas is just hanging in the trees and around my car. And she goes, no, I don't know. I was like, okay, so I used a remote starter. It started, don't blow up, so I got out of there. So make sure you got somebody that knows how to dig the damn hole too.
The last 2 openings you didn't notice. We're good. We're good.
Yeah, my name is Dennis Gibson and I live on Osborne. And this year, we've been there for 18 years. And this year I noticed in the spring, early May, the graders come down and peeled off all the dust control from last year. And it's dusty right away, pulverized dust. We never got rain until June 27th this year. So 2 months we had to eat dust. I don't know what the reason for that is. I've seen the grader so many times up and down that road, blaming it for no reason. Took all the stuff off the road, and there's nothing but dust. Just need to know why they did that. That was the first year they've done it. I haven't seen this before.
In order for us to do dust control, our guys have to go out and prep those roads so that the dust control will work into it.
Two months ahead of time?
The reason it was done 2 months ahead of time is because we were scheduled to have it done 4 weeks before we actually had it done.
Oh, I know, they were having problems with it.
Well, we pre-book, and if the company can't make it because it rains for 2 weeks, then it puts us behind. So we go out and we have to work pre-work the roads when we're scheduled to do the dust controls. And they can't put dust control on a hardened surface. That's why we didn't do Fifth. Because it just runs and it makes it slippery, and you're just gonna put it all in your wheel wells of your cars. So that's why we couldn't do dust control on Fifth. And we.
Would it be, when did you actually book the dust control for this year? Was it during May?
It was a month before we were supposed to be doing it.
So that'd be the end of May.
Right. Even our sweepers were late too.
Yeah.
Because we usually do dust control as soon as right after we sweep.
Yeah.
And that was definitely duly noted. We do with that service tracker we have in our system, we track all those phone calls in or emails in, and this discussion has been happening. We know where we're at, as Randy said, we were behind in about a month. And even when they said they were coming out one day and we get that phone call, well, our office goes a little bit sour ourselves because we want it to happen, because then it alleviates the problems going forward. So we've noted that. We've noted it in our file so that we can even apply for that even earlier, and it depends on the conditions and so forth. Just the way it is.
I don't need the mic. It covers. When the sweeper is out on the street, could they not wet it down first before they sweep? Because we were on McMurch too, and that, Carolyn said, that guy made such a cloud. He couldn't even see where he was going in front of our house, and the wind was blowing back in his face. I'm not sure he had a mask on either, where he should have.
Yeah. So with the sweeper itself, it was, and I'm going to be truthfully honest with you, was not working properly when we were doing it before. There was parts that needed to be had. It is now fixed to be working to where it is, so that the dust should not fly as much going. And of course, we had a lot of problems with dust because of no control that was down there. So not an excuse, just the information that was there, that we'd had the discussion to say, why are we having this problem? Because we had phone calls when it was out, and then after that didn't have the phone calls because it was working properly.
Yeah, because we're on paid part of McMurch, and he was sweeping it, but I wouldn't want to have been the guy driving that thing, because he couldn't, that cloud of dust was as high as his ceiling, and he couldn't even see where he was going. It was like little water in front would have settled that down just fine.
But the one on Fifth, that sweeper that was out there, he had to get that street clean so that we could put down the hot asphalt into the holes. And unfortunately, that's the only way we could do it unless we manually swept it for 2 months.
Unfortunately, he was sweeping the gravel in the dug-up area.
On the intersection.
Yeah, he went back and forth there like a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, like 6 times in one direction, 6 times the other direction, and this big building just came right over, everybody on that corner.
Any other questions from the audience? Go ahead, sir.
My name is Ron Single. I've lived in Regina Beach here during the summers. This is our 3rd summer. My wife and I and immediate family thoroughly enjoy it. Great small town atmosphere. I think I spoke last year and congratulated council on what I saw was major improvements and how welcoming the community is here. One thing I want to, I guess, congratulate council on this year is the garbage pickup. A few years ago when we first moved here, it was to the point where our garbage would often get missed and I would take it back to Regina. I've seen a significant improvement in that area, so thank you very much.
Nice.
The second point is just more a heads up for council and the rest of the community. I guess I'll address it to everybody in the room. I've talked to Mark about it here briefly. I'm an active outdoorsman and a strong conservationist. And I fished Manitoba extremely and Saskatchewan extremely, as far north as Wollaston Lake. And we are so blessed to have a fishery that we have. The walleye in this lake are incredible. I can speak in great depth about this. The reason I don't want to get into too much detail. I am going to be writing council with 2 recommendations. So just a heads up and recommendations for consideration. And if anybody in the community is of like mind to me and wants to work with me to craft that letter to council, I would certainly welcome your input and signature on my letter. The 2 recommendations I'm making are in regards to overfishing on the pier. I've been out at 4 in the morning in the month of June, and there's 25 to 30 people fishing off the pier. And I've seen people leave with their limit, drive to Regina, and come back for a second limit. I see a man shaking his head.
Yeah.
This has been going on since I've been out here. And I've come to know the conservation officers very well. They've given me their phone number. I've reported somebody fishing with 2 rods, they got a ticket. Someone else overfishing. And you know, I have grandchildren that I take out fishing, and I'm not prejudiced, but it's a different clientele who fishes the pier. Non-Caucasians who keep every fish, whether it's 12 inches or 30 inches. I witnessed one and got into a large disagreement with a Chinese fellow and about keeping a 30-inch walleye. I told him that weighs 250,000 eggs. Don't you want that, our fishery, to be here for kids and grandchildren? And he looked me in the eye, shook his finger and said, I allow 1. And he's right. Our provincial fishing regulations allow 1 walleye over 22.5 inches per day. So I've spoken to the government, the officer who does our provincial regulations in PA, and I'll just say that we need more support because their method of determining whether the fishery is healthy is not valid. A week after I reported my concerns, they set 15 gill nets on our lake here and killed 400 to 500 fish, walleye and other fish. And their benchmark is as long as 10% of the fish in those gill nets are larger than 22.5 inches, the fishery is good. Otherwise, they will reduce the limits. So the second issue is with the tournament fishermen. There's a lot of dead fish. They catch them in 40 feet of water, and they get the bends, it's called. The stomach blows up and it won't go back down. So they fizz them, put a needle in to release the air, and it can take up to a week. So a week after the tournament, that first week, you can count the number of dead fish in this lake. So I guess I'm looking for council support, number 1, in lobbying the government to change their provincial regulations, not to allow any fish over 22.5. Manitoba just implemented that law last year. The second recommendation, this one's a tough one for the town because the town owns, is my understanding. Conservation officer actually told me, he said, Ron, why doesn't the town close the pier permanently, the end of the pier? And I says, well, people, how are you going to control that? And then I winter on the Gulf of Mexico, and they have tons of piers there. They charge people $2 for every line fishing rod you take out. Well, how are you gonna enforce that? Well, you could have a ticket machine there and the town could make some money. Charge $2 per rod, somebody walks out there, let's see your ticket. If they don't have it, I guess you try to scam them for $2 or $5 since they didn't listen. The people who come to the pier also do not support the town. So they buy their leeches at Pokey's, Cabela's. I've never seen them stop at the Esso. They bring their food and whatever. So just a heads up that I'm going to be writing a letter to council in those two regards. One to the provincial government. I'm hoping town council will support me and support that letter as well. But the main one is, do we want to, at minimum, close the pier to fishing during the month of June? That's going to be my primary recommendation. They release the tournament fish at the yacht club. Those fish swim past the pier, and the fishing's pretty darn good the first week after the tournament. And a lot of them are being kept oversized. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions they'd like to pass on? Not hearing. Oh,
I was just gonna say, we're gonna be here, so if you're not comfortable in front of a group, speak to us on your way out. We're hanging around, we wanna talk to you.
Yeah, I just want to let everyone know online. I know that we have a few questions that have come through. I think the best way is I will try to address them with council's knowledge of what they're asking for as best as we possibly can, because it'll be hard to address it otherwise. So I think I'll do it that way if you guys are okay with that. I'll just reply to it accordingly while you guys are talking to the general public. I think lastly.
Would it be helpful for these people to hear the questions? Like, is there information that would be?
Yeah, I think I can just give you a quick breakdown. There's a discussion on the vehicles operating in town, how is it going to be enforced, the drinking and driving and so forth, to be a part of it. So that's, one, just a comment about it. The other one was about the one boat also that the gentleman mentioned, one boat for the household doesn't allow for, equality. So that's something that council's already addressed and will be looking into to be a part of that. Public reserve on 6th Avenue is owned by the town and has been neglected, so cutting trees, grass, and so forth. So that can be one that we can address internally with Public Works. Asking about how much money that JRA construction in the last fiscal year gets for work with the town, with water breaks, pumping, and so forth. We can deal with that one also because we do have contracts in place on certain things that we have worked for any or all construction work that are done that way. And just on roadways, I'm guessing this one is about 5th, and just on roadways and cleaning and using a bobcat and then the grader. And I think that's one area that we address at the office, that the grader can't go down certain streets. Yes, it's something that we definitely will be talking to Public Works about to make that more of a workable thing. And I think that was basically it, on there. So that was just a couple of so I would say on behalf of administration, on behalf of mayor and council, if they allow me, to thank everybody for coming out tonight. We did put out a bunch of chairs and you almost filled them up. So Sandy's very happy because she helped put out the chairs. So in doing that. So thank you very much for coming out and respecting everybody else in the room. And hopefully you'll get some information. This will be posted online eventually. And look forward to the information with regard to the golf carts coming forward. So thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you all. Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
I gotta go south.
Yeah. If you want it done, get the hell over there and do it.
I did all mine.